Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Iyori Folani. Hope we meet you well. The battle for 2027, it's hotting up. It has been in that state for a few days now. And, well, when you look at the assembly that happened yesterday, a coalition of oppositions, they call the Labour Party, Social Democratic Party, and other political interests, and they are the African Democratic Congress. Interim chairman so far. Interim chairman is a former Senate President, David Mark, who recently resigned his membership of the PDP, and the former Osun governor, Rauf Aregbesola, former minister, also in the Buhari era. He's been named as the interim National Secretary. So interesting things are happening. Well, my guest this morning is Ken Okolugbo. It depends on how you know him. Some call him Ken, some call him Kenny, you know. But I've never heard anybody call him Kenneth. So
No, it's Kenny.
Yeah.
Just call me Kenny.
So good morning, Ken.
It's always my pleasure.
Thank you very much for coming on. Ken Okolugbo, political affairs analyst and consultant, communications and strategy to the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio. Well, everybody's observing what's going on.
So what cap am I wearing today? I hope I'm wearing the cap of a political analyst. So that the views I express will not be said to be the one from my official capacity.
Even if you want your official capacity, everybody is busy doing their own official capacity. All those people that came out yesterday,
yes,
were they not speaking in their official?
Tinubu, basically. And that's what I could see, basically.
Well,
because I wouldn't call them the internally displaced politicians as they have been tagged, because I see a whole sort of people who have had pedigree and who have been politicians for years. But you see, the thing is, Nigerians are tired of the old order. If you're saying you want something new, if you're saying you want something different, let's see a different crop of people who are coming together, especially these are beds of different feathers, completely different feathers. So by the time they're conglomerating together, you can see that it will be very difficult for them to be able to merge. And you see, that's why I said one common purpose that drives them together is basically the hatred for Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That is where I see it. Because
okay,
why do I say this?
You're just phrasing it like
yes,
that.
Why do I?
Let us just say the opposition.
No,
I don't know that
that is why I when I say hatred, a couple of them just believe they don't want to see anything good about Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government. And they were just in government a few years ago, 2 years ago. And for someone like Malami, for example, should I break it down? What is Malami? What did Malami change in the 8 years he stayed as Attorney General and Minister of Justice? That he suddenly has said that, oh, the security situation has gotten to the extent where, you know, it is intolerable, hunger everywhere, pervading the land. But Bola Ahmed Tinubu took over a government that was practically going, in fact, bankrupt. Let me put it that way, because he's the CEO of Nigeria. He took over a government that was printing naira, ways and means, to the tune of about 30 trillion. He took over a government that there was no subsidy provided for him. He took over a government that, at that point in time, it just took courage for him to have continued. Some would have basically maybe resigned or trimmed the towel. Now, if they are forming this coalition, as at that time when we are at the critical stage, when naira was almost at a free fall, we're getting to almost 2,000 naira. Inflation, even before rebasing, had gotten beyond 2 digits. We were almost climbing to 27%. We didn't know where we were. Rice had gone to 100,000. I mean, it's not yet to Hulu, we must say the truth. But let us look at where we're coming from the initial 1 year of Bola Ahmed Tinubu when he took over this government to where we are presently. Are they saying that they are not seeing what is happening? That is why I said I termed the word hatred, not because I'm saying that they dislike him, but they and in one fell swoop they have become billionaires. Not because they stole, but because they bought at government rate and they exchanged and they sold at black market rate. Are they going to say that they are not aware that we're owing about $108 million and that it has been billion dollars and it has been reduced about $108 million, so it has been reduced about $94 million? Of course, we know that we're still borrowing. We're still taking projects that are mind-boggling, like the Coastal Road and some other infrastructural developmental projects. But for the first time, we're seeing projects that are being commissioned, and we can see the impact it's telling on the people. Why are they making it sound like it is? The impression they're giving is there is nothing good at all to be written about this administration. This is where I have a problem with them. At least accept the fact that there are very good things that the man has done, and it is not here to huru. And if anybody tells you that it is yet to rule, the person is lying, well, then we can know where they're coming from.
Well, in fairness, to be fair in politics, it's only because you are you that you can be speaking this way. That is to say,
being objective?
Well, yes, where your sympathies also lie. The things that you say that are true, you don't expect people who have become the ADC now to be saying those kind of things, because we're still trying to figure out how this group is going to work together. I just said it cuts across, you know, APC, PDP, PDP, Labour
APC,
Party,
Labour
Social
Party,
Democratic Party,
SDP.
And it is only one presidential candidate that you're going to come up with.
Oh,
right?
yes. And, you know, I find it funny when you start saying, I want only one term in office. It doesn't make sense. How can you have only one term in office, only 4 years in office? It smacks of desperation. Because there is no way you can solve the problem.
They might say it's
imagine
maybe from their own point of view, instead of desperation, they will say it's
Tinubu told you he wanted just 4 years in office. Well, is it not just 2 years now that he's finding his feet, and yet he has not been able to find that feet? But for 2 years now, we can see that there's light at the end of the tunnel. We can now see him carrying out the projects. Okay, he commissioned the Coastal Road. They started accusing him that it was just 30 kilometers out of 700 and something kilometers. You know, if you cry, they will say you have done badly. If you don't cry, they will say you have done badly. So the truth about it is that sometimes you're not there to please Nigerians. You are there to please yourself and do what you believe is good for Nigerians. If your conscience tells you that is what it is. So the fact that these things are things that you cannot perform magic overnight tells you that when somebody comes to tell you now that I want to do only 4 years, the person is not ready to work. You can't change these things. Okay, did we know about when Feto Obaseki, the governor of Edo State, when he was shouting about printing of the Naira and ways and means, a lot of people condemned him. Did we know it was this bad? For you know I was very much against the government of Buhari. You have had me here over and over again, and I didn't change my stance for the 8 years of Buhari's government because I thought his economic policies were a failure. I thought a lot of the things he did were not right, and you know we can go on all the things I said which would have been proven right. But I didn't even know the decay was such that they had printed about over 30 trillion naira.
Very few
How do you take over such a government where now you did not give him subsidy? 2 things he did. He removed subsidy and the naira went on a free fall because he left the naira to the variances of the market forces. And in economics, you know what that implies. And the only way he could steady the boat at that time, because he couldn't even increase the workers' salary, because he had a backlog of even the state had a whole backlog they were going to pay, was that they had to navigate to such a point where they now decided on 70,000, which you and me spoke about when I was in Abuja studio. That is still very meager. Do you understand? But it is light at the end of the tunnel, because you cannot keep paying people 30,000 naira in an economy now that we have seen that naira is only finding its real value. Naira didn't have its real value. They were only using subsidy and using other means to show up the value of the naira. While our sovereign wealth funds was being depleted, our savings were being depleted at the same time. And now the man has also done the tax. Are they going to say those who have coalesced into the ADC? I saw members of the National Assembly there too.
Yes.
Are they going to say that the tax bill that they have just passed into law, which everybody is praising them for, that it wasn't novel? That was an executive bill. So that was. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
I do.
You know, I like speaking with facts, so that when you try to puncture it, I mean, I'll be able to meet you at that point.
But this is politics.
This is
for you.
even if it is politics.
They
we
won't
had
mention the
obsolete laws that has been there during the colonial regime that have just been repealed back. For the first time, we have 4 boards. We don't have the Federal Inland Revenue Services again. We have the Nigerian Revenue Service. We have the Ombudsman. We have the Appeal Tax Board, where you don't pay double taxation anymore. Now, we have those who are earning 250,000 below, who are not going to be paying tax. We have those who are earning 1 million, who are basically those who are earning the 70,000 minimum wage, who are not paying tax. Then we have incentives for the companies to pay 25% of tax. And we are now driving it the government of Tinubu is driving it to such a point where it can now become an alternative. Because we keep deceiving ourselves that mining and agriculture is another alternative means. It is not. We have not seen them show up our GDP.
You know,
I mean, the government here is facing realities. If we can't get money from mining, if we can't get money from agriculture as we desire, okay, let's do taxation. And let's see the difference. If we can make up, okay, look at our budget. Our budget is predicated on $75. You and I know that Brent crude is not up to $70. The Russia and the Ukraine war, now the Israel and the Iran war, has made it in such a way that the price of oil, the volatility of it now can never be, measured, or you can tell where we are going to get oil stabilized to such a point that we can sell at $75. And the exchange rate is 1,500. Now, even the exchange rate is hovering between 1,500 and 1,600. And I must give it to the Minister of Finance. For the first time, we've seen an exchange rate that it is almost at par with the parallel market. So we don't have round tripping. We're just being realistic here. So what magic do they want to do? Back? The infrastructural decay has been such that it will take another 8 years for you to get to the point where you would say it is El Dorado. Even Bola Ahmed Tinubu 6 years will not put us in El Dorado. It will only get him to, just like he did in Lagos, to usher in a government that would really take us to where we want to be, because the decay has been over the years, and these are the people that have caused the decay. Is it Ralph Aregbesola that was the Minister of Interior? What does he want to change that he didn't change in 8 years? What is the situation that we have found ourselves in 2 years that has become so precarious that Ralph is so uncomfortable that he has to join this coalition?
You know, those are part
you
of
understand? These are key politicians. These are respected politicians. Exactly. That's why I would not call them internally displaced politicians. It is just a case of they are finding one person. They don't just want Bola Ahmed Tinubu to sit as a commander-in-chief. That is the way I see it.
Well, any way you look at it, I hear what you're saying, but it is their right.
Oh, it is.
It is their right.
That's why I said, if there is no opposition, you don't put the government on their toes. You must put the government on its toes. That's why I keep telling that when people thought it was going to be a one-party state. Remember I said it in Abuja, that we're not going to have a one-party state. That I see the opposition coming, but it will definitely not be my former party, PDP. And I've been proved right.
Well, Atiku Abubakar is in there. He is bent on running, is the wisdom that a lot of people have sort of gleaned from all of this. Who is it Obi that's going to run as his?
You see, as long as they all go with their ambitions into the ADC, it's dead on arrival.
That's what I wanted you to assess.
The excitement you see in a coalition, because whether I would like it or not, a government is always unpopular to for a whole lot of reasons. Especially a government that came in and fuel suddenly became almost as high as 1,000 naira, almost became as and is hovering now between 900 and something naira, and there's been no stability in terms of light. That's been one sector that the government, this present government, has not been able to find his, lay his hands on. Do you understand? And so there are a lot of factors that you can use, and so they would basically want a situation whereby they will cash in and use this as a weapon, as a tool, and to whip the government in power. But you see, the excitement is not there for the ADC. Are you understanding?
Because
they have seen that these people they have come together at the same old faces they have always seen together. And as long as, like you said, as long as Atiku says he's going to run,
yes,
we don't have those. Look, Nigeria has had this unwritten agreement. That was why I left the PDP.
Oh, it depends on.
That's why one of the reasons. Remember how much I spoke for the PDP?
Yes.
One of the reasons I left the PDP was when I saw that they were not ready to understand the feelings of Nigerians. They had this unwritten agreement that says when power shifts to the south, it comes to the north. Do you understand? That is why we have federal character principle. And now he wants to run at a time when people are still saying that the power should remain to south. We should do our 8 years of the south. And some will say, oh, if a southerner comes and he'll do another 8 years, because definitely Bola Tinubu would have done 4 years and the southerner will come and do 8 years. And so the north will not have gotten his fair share of rotation. And that's why some are coming to say they're going to do 4 years. I have a lot of respect for Peter Obi. In fact, if I had remained in the PDP, and if Peter Obi was to run, I would have voted for him because I was going to be a delegate to that convention. But the truth of it is, looking at hindsight now, I see a desperation among these people because the desperation I now see is one that it's not ready to see. I mean, when the government is going through a whole lot,
the desperation is
you must have a shadow government.
Unseat Tinubu.
Yes.
Okay.
You just took it off from me.
Yes.
The desperation is just to unseat Tinubu, and that is what will make it very difficult for.
Have people like
look at
El-Rufai,
for example.
He's saying that he has no ambition. I was listening
he said
to him.
urban banditry.
Well, he did. He also said that.
So he also said the politicians bandits now.
But he has said that he has no.
He's
only interested in Nigeria.
Would you ever take what El-Rufai says to you to the cleaners? If you believe El-Rufai, you believe anything because his position has not been constant. But we must also give it to El-Rufai. He played a very strong role in getting Bola Tinubu's government in power. Remember, he was one of those that said, oh, he must go to the south.
Yes.
Yes.
He
was also one of those that went to the courts when they decided to say they were changing the colors of the currency to make it impossible for people to have funds. And that was purposely done because they wanted to frustrate Bola Tinubu, we must be honest. And so the truth of it is, you can't take all that away from El-Rufai. But El-Rufai's bitterness comes from the fact that he was not confirmed as a minister, and he felt insulted. And again, don't also forget that he single-handedly almost installed Uba, the governor of Kaduna, and nobody will not feel bad when you now see who you have installed. Rather, conglomerating to the center, that's to the commander-in-chief, to your detriment, you're completely disrespected, you're completely forgotten, they forget the votes that at least you also gave to the center. And so he's hot. And he has the right to be hot. But when you now drag in Nigerians to your own personal, that is where I have a problem with it. Do you understand? Do not just make it look like you are out there looking out for Nigerians. We all have our interests as politicians. And we all have our hearts.
I'm hearing what you're saying, and you also you are known to be pro APC now.
Of course, yes.
You're known to be pro APC now. So the question I wanted to ask is, if you are now to assess this coalition that they are putting together,
yes.
So I mean, it has to be said. You can't say that it's a rubbish set. There are, men of timber and
like
caliber.
the spokesperson. I have a lot of respect for that guy, Bolaji Abdullahi. They have a very good spokesperson. You can't take that away from him. He's just 56. And those are the kind.
David Mark and Aregbesola there.
Okay.
That was something of a surprise.
Aregbesola did 8 years in Osun State.
He did.
Can you compare him with what Adeleke is doing right now? I mean, let's call it a spade, even though Adeleke is of the PDP. So, in pointing one finger, four is pointing back at you. I see also.
Do you understand what exactly is going on with Adeleke?
I don't like people.
Do you understand what exactly is going on with Adeleke?
I do understand to some extent as a political analyst. But what I don't like is people who are ungrateful. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Okay.
I don't speak for Bola Tinubu, but I know the history of the relationship between Ralph Aregbesola and Bola Tinubu. And I thought no matter how broken the relationship is, don't forget yesterday. Don't forget where you're coming from. If you forget where you're coming from, you don't know where you're going to.
It's gotten so bad.
So I think it has gotten so bad that he feels so hot over the fact that certain decisions were taken. Yes, the president now might have taken decisions that you didn't like. You are human, and so you didn't like it. But you must also look at it once he has also taken, that also became an advantage to your person. And so
there
when
was a lot of that.
Yes, so when you weigh it together, you see that the pros are more than the cons. The advantages were more than the disadvantages. You try to swallow it. Yes, it's a bitter pill. You can feel, oh no, I did this much for him too, because not one person can make himself a governor. So Aregbesola also had his contributions, especially from that Mushin area, that's his zone. You know how much votes coming from there. In fact, the votes that are coming from there is more than Bayelsa State.
Indeed. But
you must look for a way to Georgia. That's what I believe.
It's not Mushin.
Mushin is part of the senatorial.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. I'm just looking at where the concentration of votes are. It's part of the senatorial district. So I'd see a way of him being also hot. And you see, people that are hot are dragging the Nigerians into their also personal animosity for the president.
So what, therefore, is your assessment of this coalition?
I see this coalition. I see this coalition not being effective because of ambition.
Okay, because of personal ambitions.
Yes.
Even though El Rufai said that it is Nigeria that is my concern. I don't have any ambition.
The presidential ticket he will take. If you offer him the vice presidential ticket he will take. Let's call it spade a spade. Do you understand? Maybe if Atiku decides to subsume his ambition.
It's not going to happen.
If he decides.
If he decides.
And they all say,
but he might pull a surprise.
And they all say they are going to coalesce behind Obi, then there will be a reason to worry. Why? Because Obi was able to pull over 6 million votes. You can't wish that away. Obi resonates with the Gen Zs. Are you understanding? They see him as someone who is also sensatious. They see him as someone who might come into government and not be, elaborate and elegant and run a government where they will be so, big in terms of recurrence and all that. And so it will now be seen that, if Atiku has subsumed their ambition for this reason to say people might take this coalition seriously.
And by the implication of what you're saying is that the North would throw itself behind an Obi, for instance.
They would throw themselves behind Obi because they would, for a large extent, see that their leaders, the likes of Atiku, maybe the likes of Kwakwansu, the likes of, Tambuwa was there. Tambuwa is a sitting senator.
Yes.
He has a whole lot of votes too that he can bring in from this place. He was a former governor. That's why I say I can't call them internally displaced politicians. There are people you cannot wish away from that, gathering. There are people you could see, but if this ambition is not subsumed, then the coalition is dead on arrival.
That was where I was going to.
That's what I can assure you. Yes. Because if you notice, Bola Ahmed Tinubu knew that they wanted Jonathan out. He wanted to become the vice president of Nigeria. It was his desire. Buhari had offered it to him. But because he knew they had a mission, he said, look, if I am now the one that is the clog on the wheel of progress, please, Yemi Osinbajo, go in my stead. And that was a turning point. And the likes of Saraki, who were not happy that they were going to get a Muslim ticket and they didn't want Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the vice president, all now gave their all. And some of them who also contested, like Kwakwansu, who contested the primaries and came second ahead of Atiku in that primaries. They gave him their all. And the rest is history. They defeated us, because then I was in PDP. They defeated us in that very election. So if you find leaders now who are coming together and are already thinking of what position can I get, which is what I see in this ADC. And don't forget too that you have the Dumebi Kachukwu factor, my very good friend. In fact, I gave him a whole lot of moral support initially, in terms of friendship, just friendship. Who was the presidential candidate of the ADC, who took 5th, although you might call it a distant 5th, but he has said that Ralph Nwosu has since ceased to become the chairman of the ADC since 2022. And so you also have a problem at hand, because if Ralph Nwosu is no more the chairman of the ADC, where were the powers that Ralph Nwosu got in becoming now the forerunner who decided to say they have all resigned, and suddenly distinguished Senator David Mark, former Senate President, and Ralph Aregbesola has emerged. But we want to see what INEC would also do, because INEC
Okay.
Never replied all the correspondence, according to Dumebi Kachuku, that they were writing in terms of allowing them have a convention and electing leaders of the ADC.
Let me hear what Mr. George has to say. He's called in. Good morning, Mr. George, calling in from Ikeja.
Good morning, Yuri.
Good morning.
And good morning to Ken.
Yes.
Good morning, George. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. I'll be Yuri, I did not go according to our local balance here.
Tell me what is amusing you, George.
I looked at the videos of those haters of Tinubu yesterday. It's just an association of people who hate Tinubu from day one because of his policies that are taking food away from their mouths. I don't see any of them that has the kind of electoral value that can unseat Tinubu. Is it David Mark? David Mark was in Benue when Reverend Father Alias swept the polls last time. We know he was active in PDP then. How many votes did he have the party to get? Is it Amechi? We know how Wike incapacitated him in Rivers, that Amechi could not even give his party up to 50 votes. Is it the one? Is it Oyegun? Oyegun was in Edo State there when
Yes.
Took Obaseki out. He was the one gagging Obaseki in order to hurt APC. At the end of the day, where was Oyegun? Is it Emeka Ehedioha? Emeka Ehedioha was in Imo State when the current governor won 27 local governments, including Emeka Ehedioha's local government. Is it El-Rufai? El-Rufai was the sitting governor when the President Tinubu was contesting. How many votes did he get? And look at the trend. Look at the trends since then. This Obi thinks that because he got 6 million votes in the last election, let us wait. Even if they feed him, Uncle Yori, take it from me, he will not get a quarter of the votes he got before because the dynamics have changed. What he used in winning those votes can no longer work. He used religious bigotry, he used ethnicity, and he used, lies and misconceptions. All those things have been, quashed. It can no longer work. He doesn't have new tricks that he can use. So if you base it on the number of votes that he got in 2023, let them feed it. You and I will be here, and you will see the results. So,
right.
In the first place, Atiku wants to become president at all costs. His inordinate ambition is the first thing that will kill this association of haters. I'm not predicting doom for them, but that is what is going to happen. Take it from me. Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you very much for calling in. He also called them haters.
So you see, the truth is...
No, I don't want to interrupt you. So let me quickly go on break.
All right.
I'll come back, and then I won't need to interrupt you.
Then.
Do please stay with us. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. And Ken Okolugbo is in the house, political affairs analyst, consultant, communications and strategy to the Senate President Godswill Akpabio. And so we're looking. I'm really, trying to get from Ken his assessment of the usefulness of this coalition vis-a-vis the purpose it was set up for, which is to remove President Tinubu electorally. That's the sole purpose.
But you see, they would gain traction. I don't think George says they won't. No, there are some states that will gain traction. There are some states that will get some members of the House of Reps. They will get some senators even elected because there are states where some of these leaders hold forth, and it is that strength of they have in those states that they will bring into the center. But you see, overall, what we are saying is that the center will not be able to, with what I can see, I don't want to make President Bola Ahmed Tinubu go to sleep, he should worry. Because a good strategist, I'm a strategist, I'll never tell you to go sleep. Do you understand? He should worry. But from what I can see from my assessment of what I have seen, I don't see these people unseating the president.
Well,
especially with the policies that he has put in place now.
Neither does APC.
Especially this taxation that has been signed into law. This first in history alternative source of revenue that we have never had. Because, you know, we have always run a mono economy that has just been dependent on oil.
That's right.
And so for the first time, we're seeing lights at the end of the tunnel that we're going to find funds that would not make us resort to the kind of borrowing that we are having to do, because those borrowing are being done because we want to make up for the shortfalls. The budget, I just gave you an analysis of the budget. The budget is about 55 trillion, it's 54.9 trillion. And if I tell you that these shortfalls are coming and we are not producing 2,060,000 barrels, it only therefore means that we must look for ways to shore up those differences. That is why you can see that senators were complaining that they are not even paying, the Ministry of Finance is not paying contractors. And a lot of contractors are also complaining. Why? Because there are shortfalls in the expected funds. And so for you to be able to move your economy, you must reflect it with money. If I don't pay you for a contract you have done, will you want to do another contract? Even though that contract is with you psychologically. It is just psychology. You have done a contract of about 85 million naira or maybe 200 million naira. You have not been paid for, and you have another one of 500 million naira. You won't want to embark on that one because you are scared that, look, I haven't pulled out the one that is tied down here. And most likely you might have taken a bank loan. And if you take a bank loan, you're going to be paying interest on that bank loan. And so it means that by the time your payment is delayed, the interest, you keep, servicing the interest. And, issues that these problems that they are dealing with. But you see, these policies that have been put in place now gives a breather. And so that's why I'm not even happy that these distractions are coming. Because this distraction makes it look like we're already entering an election year. And everybody knows when you enter election year, politicians who are basically the executives are more interested than legislators in how they can get their return to office than what they are going to give the masses.
Indeed.
So that is where they should know that this their strategy will become a problem. If the policies were so bad like it was last year, I must not lie to you, that initial time President Tinubu came and it was like, see, there was no light at the end of the tunnel. Our Naira was on a free fall. Times were so hard. We were buying a bag of rice for 100,000. Then I can understand.
So really,
but for him to have gotten us back to this stage, where we can say rice is 55,000, 60,000 naira.
At least to ground
Nothing
zero.
goes down in Nigeria. We know when anything goes up, it just continues to go up. Then, it gives you a whole lot of, sense of there's light at the end of the tunnel.
No doubt APC, strategists, they're
especially his ministers.
I was going to come.
I'm not going to shy away from that. Oh. If you're in a place and you're not seeing the things here you have done, that you have achieved, do you understand? You cannot, I'm not here because I'm of the Senate president. But for example, by the time it was the 2-year anniversary of the Senate, let me just veer off that. I'm just using that as an example. And we're able to give the example that 52 bills have been signed into law, 96 bills have been passed, and the president has assented to 52 bills. And over 900 bills were on the floor of the Senate. And the fact that there were petitions of over 50, we just kept giving the statistics, and we're able to give the 5 developmental agencies that have not only been created by the National Assembly, but has been assented to by Mr. President, and that would also take development to the grassroots. A lot of people were not aware of this.
Indeed.
Because people were not speaking.
This is what, in fact,
and because people are not speaking,
the president has complained about this.
I used to try to complain about the National Orientation Agency, but I can see the man is doing very well now, to a large extent. Okay. But I believe he needs funds. If the president, I don't know him, I've never met him, but if there's a place that you must fund the National Orientation Agency. Okay. Media is not cheap, you know that. Disseminating information is not cheap. You must send your message across to the people. If they don't see it, they don't understand. Okay. Especially for people who need money in their pockets to be able to reflate the economy. Let me bring on Philip. Philip has called in from Manchester. Good morning, Philip. Philip in Manchester. Good morning. Is it Philip or Phillips?
Good morning. Uncle Yori, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Yes. Please, I want to make comment about this coalition of IDPs.
Sure. Please go ahead.
People are nowhere to go. They are nowhere to go. Look at Oyegu there. Oyegu that cannot win his own polling units. Look at all of them. Most of them cannot win their polling units. Not talk of trying to dethrone Tinubu. They can't. They can't. They don't have that power. If you look at it, they are all disgruntled politicians, angry, self-centered politicians, nothing to offer. They are spent force. And that's why they will go down. They will be scattered after all this. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Philip.
What did you say his name was?
Philip.
Philip is also very angry with them. The way we say they are angry. The thing is, I can tell you that this traction is not being gained because they can see that. You see, I'm speaking about a government here. Am I not talking about their demerits? You must be able to also talk about the merits you see in a government. Why do you just make it look like it is all demerit? Yeah, I know what I understand what you are saying. You are saying that if they talk of anything good about them, then the whole idea is defeated. But no, you must also try and say, look, we've seen that the government has tried in this aspect, but I think we can do better.
They will never.
And so Nigerians now see it that, oh no, you guys are just haters.
That is what they're trying to exactly.
And you guys are no more strong. Oyegu's own is a surprise to me because, he was one that screened the president, if you remember. I always go with facts. He screened the president. He approved the president to contest for the presidential election. And I believe he should have access, except he's been denied access. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing our leaders always make mistake. When you deny some certain people access, you also create room for opposition. Because it's not, yes, you might not be able to see everybody, but there are certain people that would want to see you. At least you try to create that access. Do you understand? Except he's been denied access. That's when I would expect him to be. We don't even know. That's when he should do what he's doing. I expect him to be able to send strong messages to. He was an SDP governor. Bola Ahmed Tinubu was a senator. So they've come a long way. They were both in SDP. They were both in it for Abiola. And so I expect someone like Chief John Oyegu to be able to assess the president and say, look, this is where I think you're going wrong. This is where I think you're going wrong. This is what I think you should do. You don't have to be on an appointment. Oyegu is an elder statesman. He was the former chairman of the party. In fact, he midwifed the party into becoming the party that defeated the incumbent government as at then, and continued until such a time he was not able to continue and he handed over. So when you see someone like Chief John Oyegu there, people must misconstrue it and say, what is this man looking for? I
want to go back to the point you made. Yeah, the point you made about perhaps, and the president has also made the same observation that you're not, that is to his ministers, you're not telling people how far we've come. You're not telling people all that we are doing. So I want you to go out there and do that. And,
but they're still not doing it.
Enough.
They're not doing it. They're not doing it. But in my assessments of the strategies, I'm just telling you. I don't. Yes, because if they're doing it, if they're doing it, the opposition I see in some certain quarters will not come, because I can tell you that the many things that the government has done, it's just like when people say, oh, they don't see what is happening in the Senate, they don't see what is happening in the House of Reps. And I sat with someone yesterday because I'm in Lagos, and we watched YouTube. And he didn't even know that you could go live on YouTube to watch what happens in the Senate every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays of sitting. The guy apologized to me. He said he didn't know that it could be this intense.
Well, so if you understand back to this whole matter of information again.
Information dissemination.
Mazi Okoroafo, good morning, sir. Mazi Okoroafo.
Yeah, Mazi Okoroafo from Arusi. When I see all this issue of connection, forces, ego I start laughing. Why am I laughing? I'm laughing in the sense that all these people fighting. I start that. I was asking my colleague yesterday, and I said, look, what you are seeing on television, all the radio houses, the television houses, connection. Who is going to be president? Everybody wants to be president. Everybody wants to. People should know that if God did not say you be president or the president, but you cannot make it. There's no way. There must be a houseboy. There must be a house girl. There must be a guy. Everybody wants to be this. How is it possible? Do we have a Steve Jobotka state where we are going to have Steve Jobotka president? It's only one Nigeria, one. honestly, I would advise all this fighting. Go back to your former party. Put your house in order. Solidify the system there. And solve this issue of sectionalism, capitalism, them. This my son, my ego. Now, I used to tell people, say, look, borrow a leaf from Trump. When Trump survived the enter, Trump sat down, Trump arranged his own strategies to come back to second tenure. That was what Trump did. Trump did not leave his party and start going to sitting down. So he was just arranging his own strategy. Now look at it. God said Trump will come back. How? We saw two assassination attempts. Going to the third one. But Trump survived because God said Trump will be back to the office. That is how politics is. Because when God has said to them, they have said, no human being will bring it back. There are several outputs I was absolutely good. I have to say it 2031 because God has already destined. All this one fighting. I start asking them, how many presidents are we going to get? All this money they are using to do this business. Why not use the money and go to your states, go to your constituency, and feed food? They have seen a level of education, how schools, how students are complaining about it. Why not go and invest that money there and start planning your strategy after I'll go back to the basics for now. That is what you're supposed to do. Honestly speaking, I'll just call all this fighting. It's only one president we have. It's only one president we need. We cannot have multiple. Now, go back to the basics. All this was fighting. Your record, your past record. If your record past record is outstanding, is it above average or below average? That will tell. There's no vanity upon vanity or vanity. Allow the president to continue.
We can sort of relate to, you know, what we're talking about. That they still have to take this to the electorate. And whoever they call themselves what they want, coalition, opposition, they still have to take the ploy to the electorate. And as you were saying, you started off by saying that this man, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has done so very much, him and his team.
Yes.
You know, they've done such a lot that you can't wish all of that away.
Of course.
You can't also wish away where we started from.
It's like the very difficult part he had to navigate.
Yes.
Look at his fight on anti-corruption. In the 2 years he's been there, he's earned from the statistics. I go on statistics and facts. He has earned a record of having been the best president that has been able to tackle corruption. The recoveries that have been made, the fact that the EFCC has turned into an IGR, even helping to fund projects like NEL Fund and the Consumer Credit Scheme and so many other things. And so, recovering almost 750 duplexes that will go into the Guinness Book of Record.
But
the kind of recoveries.
MFLA has gone to court.
No, but the fact that he has gone on appeal, yes, he's gone on appeal, at least shows that the person, they smoked out the owner. Initially, nobody
wanted to say they were the owner.
That is a plus. Do you understand? And yes, you can say maybe the fight against corruption is such that it is tinted towards those who are in opposition. But we have also seen people who are members of the ruling party also being charged, investigated. And I think Ola Olukoyede is doing very well in that stead. And if Ola Olukoyede is doing well, that means Bola Ahmed Tinubu is doing well. Just like if you say Wike is doing well in the FCT, that means Bola Ahmed Tinubu is doing well, because these are all his appointees. They are only holding forth for him. And so the fact of the matter is, what I think the opposition can do now, what I think his coalition can do, is to put the president on his toes so that he can perform more.
Indeed.
That's exactly what I expect them to do.
That is what they can do.
Put the president on his
what
toes.
They should be doing.
They should put pressure on the governors. They should put pressure on the senators. They should put pressure on the House of Rep members, on the ministers, so that performance will now become, look, it's not before that you thought it was just, there was no alternative. We now have an alternative. Because if you say you don't want an opposition, then you don't want to practice democracy. There must be opposition. But the only reason I see most of your callers agree with what we're saying in the studio this morning, especially myself as your guest, is that these people are not ready to subsume their ambition. They're not ready to have a focus, a direct focus. Okay, now you're talking about ideology. I heard the spokesperson saying that in UPN those days, no matter how useless the governor was, you must know you must operate operation feed the children. I ate the free food at that time. At least even in my demonstration school, I think I ate maybe once, twice, or thrice. They used to give us that rice. What is their own ideology? As they join the party, the ADC, where you have the handshake. What is the ideology of the ADC? Yeah. How did they join? Why is that? Of course, they would have expected that there is no way they will enter, that there will be no opposition. You understand what I'm trying to say? How come all those who are in the APC, in the Labour, in PDP, those who are on the left, those who are in the center, those who are supposed to be on the right, have all now found a common cause? So let us see what the ideology is going. Moving forward, Senator David Mark is very respected. He's been a Senate president for 8 years. That is not small feat to have achieved. He was a military administrator, he was a minister, and he's been this, he's been that. And that's why people are saying that what is new that you're going to offer? Do you understand? Ariboshola has also been a commissioner, and he's been a governor. And so they need to come together to tell us that this is what our focus is. More than just saying what El Rufai is saying, Bola Ahmed Tinubu must vacate Aso Rock 29th May 2027.
That is their mantra. That's the only mantra that they have.
They don't want to see Bola Ahmed Tinubu one day more than May 29th, 2027.
So it's just that they'll have to wait for the time, and then we'll see what will actually happen. Most especially if the president's cabinet, as he has said, and they did it for a while, if they keep on going out there selling what they have done.
Yes. The minister does it, but they shouldn't wait for the Minister of Information in calling them to come and give their scorecard. Go give your scorecard. Every ministry has some funds in terms of information dissemination. You don't have to wait for the minister to call a general forum, and that's when you come and give your scorecard. And that should also put the ministers on their toes too.
So when people
say, look, we have to perform, because they've been giving parameters. The president said it. That is why he said, look, we must have a chief whip, or rather, I don't know what you call Bala Adiza, maybe you call her the headmistress. You understand? But like me, if you give me an assignment, I'll be eager to. If I can't achieve that assignment, I'll rather go. If I see I'm being frustrated, I walk away. I don't think twice about it. As a commissioner, I'll tell you, for the first time, I'm opening up. I packed out of my office in February 2015. We were eventually eased out in July. But my people who I served as commissioners can confirm that what I'm telling you was that I packed every single item I had. I never went back to that office. I didn't even personally pack it. My PA did it for me. I told myself that my journey was over and I was moving on. But it's very difficult for people to detach themselves when they're in a place. If you cannot take my advice, you cannot take my suggestions, you cannot take my strategies, you cannot tell me. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I see that I am not contributing, I cannot make my impact. I just simply walk away and go on to other grounds. And that is why it is important that they also have to up their game and increase the information level that they're disseminating to Nigerians. Because the opposition would always find favor with the masses. And the masses would always want to listen to them because they are hungry. But these people are not hungry for food. They are hungry for power. Those who have coalesced. But the people who are hungry for food, they will find a way to always penetrate them, and those are the ones that they would use when it comes to electoral purposes. We'll
see how this formation is going to proceed, ADC, African Democratic Congress. But you said that all that needs to be said. And for all of their efforts, I think the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu has it relatively easy. Be out there, let the whole society know what you are doing, what has been done, what has been achieved.
And let it trickle down to the states, to the local governments, to the wards.
It's tremendously important.
Very important.
So we're going to have to leave it here simply because we've run out of time. But thank you very much, Ken Kolubo, political affairs analyst and consultant communication and strategy to the Senate President of the Federal Republic, Godswill Akpabio. Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. As I said, this is our program today. Do please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.